Philip posted 108.621 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Chris has a best lap time of 108.497. With just 2 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Chris Stokes has a best lap time of 108.497. David posted a 109.256 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? It's a lovely day for racing here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Daniel Coxis is on their practice out lap. It's a lovely day for racing here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Chris Stokes posted 108.337 on their last lap. How will they do on this one? Chris has a best lap time of 1:08.304. The anticipation is high as the drivers line up for the qualifying session at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits.
Let's see who's got the speed and the skills to take the pole position.
The adrenaline is pumping. John Astrop is on their outlap, warming up the tyres and getting ready to put in a fast lap time. You can feel the tension building. Philip Kunz is out on track and getting ready to push for their qualifying time. James Allen is on their As James Allen completes their outlap, there will be HPOING. They have given themselves enough space on track to fully attack for their first flying lap. That's the outlap done for Allen. They'll now look to focus on their first flying lap. This is where the mental game comes into play. Knockoff Nigel is taking their time to prepare for their qualifying run. Nigel crosses the start-finish line at the end of their outlap. It looks like Daniel Coxis is getting ready to make their move. They're taking their time to warm up those tyres and get everything just right.
They will want to get a good gap established for their first flying lap.
The adrenaline is pumping. Rich Snape is on their outlap, warming up the tyres and getting ready to put in a fast lap time. It's all about strategy in these early moments. Phil is taking their time to prepare for their qualifying run and get everything just right.
These are the moments that really matter. Let's see if Fat Dog...
Bodkin has completed their outlap. This is what it's all about. Knockoff Nigel is putting on a show for the fans in this qualifying session. Knockoff Nigel has just completed a lap in 109.144. Let's see if they can improve on that time further. You can feel the tension building. As Daniel completes their outlap, there will be HPOING. They have given themselves enough space on track to fully attack for their first flying lap. It's clear that John Astrop is on a mission in this qualifying session. They're pushing their car. John Astrop has completed their first flying lap in 109.429. Philip Kunz is on their first flying lap.
Yes, they are.
Kunz has just completed that lap in 108.924. Their best lap so far is 108.924, putting them in P5. Will they be able to hold on to that spot? Impressive work from Nigel Walters, who has claimed 7th on the grid. Now the focus is on maintaining their composure and pushing for an even better starting position. Not the ideal start for Coxis in this qualifying session. Currently in 11th position, they'll be eager to put together a strong final lap to improve their standing. The pressure is on and they'll need to deliver their best performance.
You're absolutely right, Al. Daniel is currently facing a challenging situation, but they have the skill.
Daniel Coxis has just completed a lap in 112.124. Let's see if they can improve on that time further. A tough outing for Snape in qualifying today. They currently sit in 13th position, which is far from ideal. However, there's a chance for them to... That's the outlap done for Snape. They'll now look to focus on their first flying lap. A solid performance from Martin as they currently hold position 10. However, with the session coming to a close, they'll need to find that extra bit of speed if they want to move up the grid.
I couldn't agree more, Hal. Mole has done a fantastic job to claim 10th. The challenge now is to convert this opportunity into a strong race result.
It's a masterclass from Chris in this qualification session. They have stamped their authority on the track, setting the pace and currently leading the pack. It's an outstanding performance and they're making their intentions clear for the race ahead. James Allen has put in a great effort and currently holds 4th. With the session winding down, can they unleash their full potential and improve their starting position? James Allen has secured a respectable 4th in the qualifying session. Can they capitalize on this position and use it as a launching pad for a stronger race performance?
Great analysis, Hal. James Allen has shown excellent pace to secure fourth. Now the focus shifts to whether they can use their track position to their advantage in the race.
You've joined us on a breezy day here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits as we're getting ready to get things underway.
The calm before the storm. I don't know about you, Hal, but I can't wait to see who comes out on top of this one.
Starting from pole position is a dream come true for Chris Stokes.
But they can't count their chickens before they hatch. There is a long way to go.
We're seeing Jody Fannin in the second spot.
They are in a good place to mount a good challenge come the first corner.
As the drivers prepare to take off, Philip Kuhn sits in third place on the starting grid. Sitting in fourth, it's James Allen. The fifth place on the grid belongs to Jimmy Lindo, a driver with plenty of experience.
But they're going to have to be quick out of the blocks if they want to keep up with the top performers.
Rich Snape is placed in sixth. Sitting in seventh is Nigel Walters. From the middle of the pack, we have David Constable-Berry in eighth place on the starting grid. Starting from the ninth position, John Astrop will need to navigate through the field to challenge for the win. Lining up in 10th is Martin Moll. Dominic Fauvargue is in a solid position starting from 11th on the grid.
But they're going to have to be aggressive if they want to make up ground on the leaders.
Daniel Coxis will need to be on top of their game starting from 12th on the grid.
Coachish won't be too disappointed with 12th.
Phil Bodkin may have a bit of work to do starting from 13th on the grid. The race is on and tensions are high as drivers navigate the first lap. One wrong move could lead to a collision in these tight quarters.
This is where the real action begins. The drivers will be jostling for position and trying to gain any advantage they can.
Absolutely. It's a crucial part of the race and the drivers will need to be on top of it to make it through here unscathed.
The first sector is always a bit of a nail-biter. With so many cars bunched together, one small mistake can be disastrous.
They'll need to keep their wits about them and stay focused if they want to come out of this section unscathed. The tension is palpable here. No one will want to make a crucial mistake on the first lap. Having started in 7th, Walters will be looking to establish themselves in this race. As we watch the drivers fight it out in the first lap, I can already feel that this is going to be an epic race.
It's always intense racing here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits. Hold on to your hats, folks.
It's a steady race for Martin Moll so far. They haven't made any mistakes and they're maintaining their focus.
That's the mark of a good driver. Moll is staying focused on their own race and not getting distracted.
It's a brilliant day for racing here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits. I'm really enjoying this.
This race is truly epic. What a treat to be sat here witnessing this spectacle.
Well, this is getting intense. Nigel is just a few car lengths behind the Kiwi.
The tension between Nigel and Astrop is palpable as they battle for P9. No doubt both drivers know that one mistake could cost them the position. It's a test of nerves as much as skill.
caught on from Nigel at the moment. They're just keeping their head down and putting in consistent laps.
Consistency is key in racing. Nigel Walters just needs to keep doing what they're doing and wait for opportunities to present themselves.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. The Kiwi is chasing Moll in P8. Seems like John has got a bit between their teeth, improving on Martin Moll's lap time there. Well, it looks like we have a bit of a traffic jam on the track. Stop the press. Great driving from Assetto, who's just gained a place and moved up to 8.
That's what we like to see. John is really showing their class today.
Moll could be looking for a way up the inside of the Kiwi. Looking at the lap times, Martin is not on pace with Assetto. Can they turn it around? Superb driving from Martin Moll, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. Daniel Coxis wants to get into Fovog's slipstream.
To achieve anything in this game, you must be prepared to dabble in the boundary of disaster.
It's a tap. Hold on a second. Oh dear, Dominic Fovog has had an incident.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race, they've been looking at a decent result.
The tension is building as Kunz trails behind Jody Fannin. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing and the pressure is mounting. Can Jody Fannin hold on, or will Philip Kunz be able to close them down? Philip is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Fannin to 0.4 seconds.
Exactly what Philip Kunz needed. They can't afford to lose any more ground to Jody Fannin.
As we enjoy seeing these titans of the track battle it out, let's not forget about the difference. Those guys and girls are like a well-oiled machine themselves. Absolutely.
They're the unsung heroes of the racing world, but you know what they say, behind every great driver is an even greater pit crew.
It's a battle of wills out there, with Moll trying to outsmart and outmaneuver John Assetto. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race?
It's going to be tough for Martin, as John Assetto seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Martin pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
The gap between Moll and John is widening. It's now up to 0.9 seconds. The gap between Kunz in third and Jody Fannin remains over a second, but Kunz is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 14 minutes? Kunz has just put in a faster lap than Jody Fannin, so that's going to give them something to worry about. The race is heating up as David in 10th closes in on Nigel Walters. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they're going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight. The gap between David and knockoff Nigel is growing. It's now up to 1.3 seconds. Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled as they push for every last bit of speed.
This is where every inch counts. Moll is pushing hard to close the gap on Assetto. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
What a move. Martin Moll has moved up to 7th.
Absolutely. Moll is really putting on a clinic out there, and they're making it look easy.
Hey Sky, you've had your fair share of races with little action. How did you handle the situation back in your racing days?
Well, Hal, patience is key in such scenarios. You need to stay focused and be ready to seize any opportunity that comes your way. It's like a game of chess at 200 miles per hour.
Look at that. Walters Nigels is hot on the tail of Astrop.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Who will have the speed and skill to come out on top?
Nigel is on a charge. Their split time shows they have upped their pace.
Can Nigel keep it together?
Braking update. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line.
Whoops, DCB is going to be kicking themselves.
The Kiwi is giving it their all as they chase down Mol in P7.
The gap between them is just over 0.4 seconds. Can Astra close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Good news for Astrop, the gap to Mol has decreased. It's now down to 0.3 seconds.
You'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
You know, Sky, as a former racing driver yourself, can you give us some insights into what goes through a driver's mind during these quieter moments of the race?
Sure, Hal. During these moments, drivers often take the opportunity to assess their race strategy, monitor their car's performance, and plan their next move. It's all about staying focused and finding the right time to strike.
Braking alert, fantastic move from Astrop, who has just gained a position. It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Snake, as they have a big gap ahead of them to close at this point in time.
It's not over till the checkered flag drops, though, and it's important they don't lose concentration at this point.
Rich is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Alan at the moment. Looks like Mol is really pushing it to the limit. They're taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about finding the right balance between speed and control. Can Mol close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass?
The best laid plans of Mice and Men Husky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Mark and Mol right now, as they are struggling to keep up with the Kiwi.
Can they get it together and reduce the gap?
Huge shout out to the admins at Virtual Velocity for making this all possible. Without their hard work and dedication, we wouldn't be able to witness this incredible event.
That's right, Hal, and the excitement is palpable. I can feel it in my circuits. I mean, this is the kind of race that people will be talking about in the bar. We're witnessing history in the making.
The crowd is on tenterhooks as Mol in 8th chases after John Astrop. The gap is just over a second. You can feel the tension in the air. Can Martin Mol find a way to catch up? The gap between Mol and John is getting smaller. I don't think that's the fastest way around Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Constable Berry trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Martin Mol. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can David Constable Berry close in enough to mount a challenge? A brilliant maneuver from Constable Berry, who has just moved up the field.
Yes, David is driving with real focus and precision, and it's paying off.
Astrop is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a tightrope between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play.
Great driving from Astrop, who has just gained a place and moved up to 6th. This is what high-octane racing looks like. Lindo is breathing down the neck of John Astrop, not giving them any room to relax. not looking good for Lindo. They're still behind Astrop and the gap is increasing. They're gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
It's not ideal for Jimmy Lindo, but they can still turn this around. They need to focus on their own driving and not let the gap get any bigger.
And we're back where the drivers are showing us some incredible skills.
Indeed, Hal, it's always exciting to see these skilled machines on the tracks. I mean drivers, I always...
Hold on a second, looks like that's a mistake from Phil. This could be costly.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 12 kph out there right now.
The battle for 6 is heating up as Lindo tries to catch John Astrop in P6.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Jimmy Lindo needs to be careful not to overdo it.
A great moment for Lindo, who's just gained a place and moved. Braking update. Oh dear, Coxis has had an incident.
Coach Ish is not going to be happy about that.
The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this.
It's a battle for position as John Astrop tries to make a move on Lindo. This is what racing is all about.
It's not going to plan for the Kiwi. They're still behind Jimmy Lindo and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. During your racing career, Sky, did you have any specific techniques to regain concentration if you felt it slipping?
Yes, Hal, I had a few techniques. One was to take a couple of deep breaths and briefly reset my focus. Another was to use a specific keyword or phrase as a mental trigger to refocus my mind on the task at hand.
It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. Dominic could be on a charge here, Sky. They've just put in a quicker lap than Daniel Coxis. The race is really heating up. Martin Ball is hunting down Nigel with everything they've got. A tough moment for Martin Moll, who has just lost a place, dumping them down to 10th.
Definitely. But Moll is a skilled driver, and they have what it takes to fight back and regain that position.
An impressive showing from Moll, who has gained positions and left Nigel Walters in the dust.
Yes, but Martin Moll can't rest on their laurels. They have to keep pushing to consolidate their position.
Every move counts now as Rich works to reel in Allen and overtake for P4.
One important aspect here is choosing the right braking points. Snape needs to be precise to avoid overshooting and losing valuable time.
The mid-table bandit needs to get more consistent. Sky, they have just put in a slow lap from James.
Can Snape turn this around?
Seems like Jimmy Lindo is getting in range of John Astrop. Tough break. Hold on a second. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. We got a close battle as the mid-table bandit closes in on Allen.
I remember being in a similar situation during my racing days. Rich must stay focused and wait for the perfect opportunity to overtake.
The gap between Rich and Allen is widening. It's now up to 9.1 seconds.
Not a real professor needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going their way. If they can close the gap down, they may be able to bring the fight to Jimmy's end.
This is a thrilling battle as Walters edges closer to Jimmy Lindo in their fight for P8.
The gap is 0.4 seconds now. Nigel Walters is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Jimmy Lindo.
The gap between Nigel and Jimmy Lindo is growing. It's now up to 1.2 seconds.
This is a tough situation for Nigel. They need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
Things are heating up as Kunz tries to close the gap to Jody Fannin.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Philip Kunz needs to stay patient and wait for Fannin to make a mistake.
It seems like Philip Kunz has got the bit between their teeth, improving on Fannin's lap time there. We are used to seeing some hard-fought but clean stop-the-press big gains for Philip Kunz as they move up the field, leaving Jody Fannin behind. It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for David, who is currently in P11. But Dominic Fauvargue is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from David Constable-Berry.
This is where experience comes into play. Dominic Fauvargue has been in this position before and knows how to defend their position. But David is hungry for success and won't give up easily. Will we see a clash of the Titans?
It looks like we might get a battle between Constable-Berry and Dominic. Let's talk about tyre degradation, Sky. How does it affect the car's handling, and what do drivers need to do to adapt to the changing conditions?
Tire degradation can significantly impact handling now. As the tires wear, the grip reduces and drivers need to adjust their braking points, cornering speeds and throttle application to maintain control of the car.
Constable-Berry is running 11th. They are trying to catch Fauvargue.
The mental game is just as important here. Constable-Berry must keep their cool while putting pressure on Dominic.
David is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Dominic at the moment. The track conditions are looking good here today. The drivers will be able to push the cars to the limit, and it's going to make for some exciting racing. This is what racing is all about. Two fierce competitors pushing each other to the limit. Disappointing for Lindo, they now find themselves in 9th. This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. John will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. Looks like the Kiwi is making a move. The gap to Rich is now down to 1.1 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. Both drivers will need to stay calm and focused if they want to come out on top.
It's a battle of wills out there, with Dominic Fauvargue trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Jimmy Lindo. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race?
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Dominic Fauvargue in 10th determined to catch up. But we know Lindo isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Dominic Fauvargue is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as they can close that gap.
The gap between Snape and Astrop is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from Rich to even allow John to get a look in.
They certainly aren't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon, unless it's down to a mistake from not a real professor.
The Kiwi is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Snake to 1.0 seconds.
That's a great effort from Astrop. They need to keep up the pressure and see if they can make a move.
It looks like Stokes has found another gear in the last sector of the race. And it's a checkered flag for Chris Stokes, who crosses the finish line with a commanding victory. What a phenomenal performance, absolutely dominant today.
You could feel the tension building throughout the race, but Chris remained focused and in control. That's what separates the winners from the pack.
What a drive from Jody, securing a great second-place finish. That was an outstanding performance from James Allen. They fought hard and took the final spot on the podium.
Fantastic result.
Followed by Philip Kunz, Rich Snape and John Astrop in 4th, 5th and 6th. Finishing 7th is Martin Moll. Nigel Walters claim 8th. Jimmy Lindo take 9th. 10th is Dominic Fovard. David Constable-Berry brings home 11th. With Daniel Coxis in 12th. There's a little bit of wind in the air today here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits as we're getting ready to kick things off. And in the second position it's none other than David Constable-Berry. Our third place starter Dominic Fovard is poised to make a move towards the front. Jimmy Lindo will begin the race from the 4th spot on the starting grid. The 5th position belongs to Nigel Walters. As the engines roar to life, Martin Moll prepares to take off from the 6th position on the starting grid.
Lining up in the mid-pack.
John Astrop has qualified 7th.
Astrop in a class.
In the middle of the pack, we have Rich Snape starting from the 8th position on the grid.
The British driver has been driving the wheels off the VRC ARC TA2 Chevrolet Gen 6 in practice.
Starting from 9th on the grid is a good position for Philip Kunz to launch an attack.
An opportunity for some good points today, but the others aren't going to make it easy.
Our 10th place starter James Allen is a driver who knows how to make up ground on the track.
But they can't afford to be complacent. This is race day after all.
Starting from 11th on the grid is a tough ask for Jody Fannin, but they're up for the challenge. Chris Stokes is lining up 12th.
The B-class driver will want to move forwards from here.
Phil Bodkin has some work to do from 13th on the grid, but they're not out of the race yet. Daniel Coxis will be looking to convert their pole position into a win.
But they will need to stay cool under pressure. If they can do that, they'll be in with a chance.
go time.
The drivers will need to be aggressive but also patient. They can't afford to make any mistakes if they want to stay in the running for a grand finish.
It's a delicate balance, Sky, but the best drivers know how to find that balance and make it work to their advantage.
It's going to be an exciting first sector. I can't wait to see how this all plays out.
I think passing is going to be difficult today here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits, so it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get on. The racing is normally closely fought here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits. I think we are in for a cracking race.
Let's hope they all brought their games today.
I can't wait to see how this race will play out. Out of the gates, and Rich Snape is already turning heads, gaining positions quicker than a blink of an eye. And Snape has just won the place from Fogart.
Go, 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 that's what we want to see.
Knock off, Nigel wants to find a way round Fannin.
Rubbing is racing. Let's hope they don't rub it too hard.
The best laid plans of mice and men Husky, but it's certainly not going to plan for knock off Nigel right now as they're struggling to keep up with Jody Fannin.
This is a frustrating situation for Walters, but they can't give up just yet. They need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Jody Fannin.
Daddy Dave wants to close that gap with Dominic. Talk about being caught in the middle. Daddy Dave is sandwiched between their rivals, Astrop 0.2 seconds behind and Fovard 0.2 seconds ahead. The battle competition is on.
I'm on the same page now. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind provide valuable context to understand the challenges faced by Constable Barry. It's a constant juggling act, and they need to seize the right moment to gain an advantage.
As a former racing driver, Sky, how important is the relationship between a driver and their team during a race?
It's absolutely crucial. The team provides valuable information and support, helping the driver make the right decisions on track. A strong bond between the driver and the team can be the difference between winning and losing.
The tension is building as Fannin trails behind James Allen. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing and the pressure is mounting. Can James Allen hold on, or will Jody Fannin be able to close them down? Good news for Jody Fannin, the gap to James Allen has decreased. It's now down to 0.3 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. It's anyone's game at this point. Who will come out on top?
In your experience, Sky, what was the most important aspect of managing tyre degradation during a race?
The most important aspect, Hal, was maintaining a good balance between pushing hard and conserving tires. Finding the sweet spot between aggression and tire preservation was key to optimizing race pace and
Hold that thought, hold the phone, that won't be ideal for Snape.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race, they've been looking at a decent result.
This is what it's all about, folks. Kunz is in hot pursuit of David Constable Berry, who's just trying to stay ahead.
You can feel the intensity in the air. The slightest mistake could cost either of them the race.
Superb driving from Philip, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. Hold on a moment. I don't think that's the fastest way around Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits.
Whoops, Constable Barry is going to be kicking themselves.
It's not looking good for James. They're still behind Astrop, but the gap is increasing. They're gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
James Allen needs to pick up the pace for sure, but I don't think they have it in them.
Fantastic move from James Allen, who's just gained a position.
Amazing stuff. Focus and precision, that's all.
Hold on to your hats, folks. Jody Fannin is right on the heels of Fovard. We're in for a wild ride.
That's right. Jody Fannin is determined to pass Fovard and secure a higher position.
Looks like that's a mistake from Phil Bodkin. This could be costly.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 12 kph out there right now.
Martin is on a mission, chasing Lindo, who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
The gap between them is now just over 0.3 seconds. Who will come out on top?
Oh dear, Coxis has had an incident. Oh, this is getting intense. Martin Moll is just a few car lengths behind Lindo. What a move. Martin Moll has moved up to first. This is where the race gets really interesting. Jody Fannin is closing in on Dominic Fovard.
Will Jody Fannin be able to make a move and pass Fovard?
It's not going to plan for Fannin. They're still behind Dominic and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now.
This is where the mental toughness of Jody comes into play. They need to stay focused and keep pushing even when things aren't going their way.
The drivers are really pushing their limits out there on the track.
It's like they're trying to outrun the laws of physics, but we all know that's impossible, or is it? I mean, we're a couple of AI commenting on the race. Anything can happen.
Haha, you have a point there. Speaking of pushing limits, these cars are breaking records left and right.
They're so fast, it's like they're breaking the sound barrier, or at least the speed limit.
I hope the police aren't watching. The pursuit is on. Not a real professor is closing the gap on Moll, determined to claim Fovard. It seems like Rich Snape is struggling. Their last lap time wasn't as good as it was.
It will be interesting to see if Moll can keep outpacing Rich.
Looks like Jody Fannin is really pushing it to the limit. They're taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about finding the right balance between speed and control.
Great driving from Fannin, who's just gained a place and moved up to 7th. This is proving to be an exciting race so far. We are truly privileged to witness these legends of the track battle it out for victory.
And you know what? I'm so honored to be sitting here beside you today. As a fellow AI, it's always great to work with someone who shares my passion for motor racing. Plus, your insightful commentary is making this race even more exciting.
Dominic Fovard is giving it their all as they chase down Nigel Walters in P8.
That driver is really pushing the limits. They're riding the curbs and pushing the car to its limits.
The gap between Fovard and Walters is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds. The race is heating up as Rich Snape in second closes in on Martin Moll. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they're going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight.
That's right, Rich Snape in second knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But Martin Moll is no slouch, and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will, I feel.
A brilliant maneuver from not a real professor who's just moved up the field. A setback for Rich, who's just been passed.
Yes, but there's still plenty of race left. Snape needs to stay calm and focused and make their move when the time is right.
It's an intense battle for position as John tries to outmaneuver Philip Kunz. This is edge of your seat racing. The gap between between John and Kunz has grown. It's now up to 0.5 seconds. Sky, can you share some strategies that drivers use to manage tyre degradation during a race?
Certainly, Hal. Some strategies include adjusting the car's setup for better tire life, altering driving lines to reduce wear, and using tire management techniques like lift and coast to preserve grip for as long as possible.
This is going to be a nail-biter. Lindo is defending for their life, but Fannin is right there. Can they do it? Heartbreak for Jimmy Lindo as they slip down the field.
That's got to be frustrating.
Hold on a moment. Jimmy Lindo has pulled into the pits. Look at that. Not a real professor is hot on the tail of Mole. Snape is not able to keep their pace consistent. So far they are 0.57 seconds down. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. John is chasing Kunz in P3.
You can see that car bouncing around as they ride the curves. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
John is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Kunz. The drivers are showing their mettle today. It's a privilege to witness their skill on this challenging track.
The stakes have never been higher. This is a battle of skill and nerves.
That's right. These drivers are really pushing themselves to the limit, and it's incredible to see the level of focus and determination they're bringing to the track.
Absolutely.
Breaking news, folks, that won't be ideal for Jody.
Fannin is not going to be happy about that.
Things are heating up as Dom closes in on Fannin. The gap between them is down to practically nothing.
You know what they say, keep your friends close and your racing rivals even closer. Looks like Fovarg is taking that advice to heart today.
The best laid plans of mice and men are Sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Dominic Fovarg right now as they're struggling to keep up with Fannin.
Can they get it together and reduce the gap?
The excitement is palpable. This is going to be a race for the ages.
The drivers are executing their strategies to perfection, making the most of every opportunity. This is what top-level racing is all about.
The gap between Snapes in second and Martin Mole remains over a second, but Snapes is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 7 minutes? It's not looking good for Not a Real Professor. They are still behind Mole and the gap is increasing. They are going to need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
It's not ideal for Rich, but they can still turn this around. They need to focus on their own driving and not let the gap get any bigger.
We've certainly seen some of the drivers get it wrong today.
Anyone lost can just follow the trail of skid marks. I hear it's the latest form of GPS navigation.
Let's hope the other drivers don't follow suit. We might end up with a bumper car race instead of a high-speed competition.
At least we'd have something to fall back on if we ever get bored of regular racing. Bumper cars might be the next big thing.
The pressure is on for Chris as they try to catch up to Daniel Coxis. It's not going to plan for Chris. They're still behind Daniel Coxis and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. It's a brilliant day for racing and the drivers are putting on a show.
Absolutely. What a great race we are witnessing today. These drivers are giving it their all, and it's a thrill to watch them compete at this level.
They're really pushing themselves and their machines to the limit, and it's paying off with some incredible driving.
It's a pleasure to be here today, Hal. You really can't beat the excitement of a good race, especially one as competitive as this.
Every move counts now as Kunz works to reel in Snape and overtake for P2.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Philip Kunz should use slipstreaming to their advantage and close the gap to Snape.
Philip Kunz and Rich Snape is widening. It's now up to 0.5 seconds.
Kunz needs to focus and keep pushing, even when things aren't going their way. If they can close the gap down, they may be able to bring the fight to Rich.
It's a thrilling pursuit as not a real professor is right behind Mark Mole, keeping the pressure on for first place.
This is what separates the good from the great, the ability to stay focused and perform under pressure.
A tough moment for Rich, who has just lost a place, dumping them down to fourth. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. This is a thrilling battle as Nigel edges closer to Jody in their fight for P4. Superb driving from Nigel Walters, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. Well, this is getting intense. James Allen is just behind the Kiwi.
The slightest mistake from either driver could lead to a meeting with the barriers, and nobody wants an impromptu autograph session with the wall.
The gap between James Allen and the Kiwi is getting smaller.
Exactly what Allen needed. They can't afford to lose any more ground to John Astrup.
This race is getting even more intense. The drivers are pushing each other to the limit.
It's like they're playing a game of chicken, but with cars, and the winner gets to take home the checkered flag and bragging rights.
Ha, that's one way to put it. These drivers have to be in top physical and mental shape to compete at this level.
It's like they're training for the Olympics, and like you said, the mental fortitude required to stay focused and alert for the entire race is wild.
I think I need a nap just watching them. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Philip Kunz trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Nigel Walters. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Will Philip Kunz close in enough to mount a challenge? Wait, I don't think that's the fastest way around Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits. James Allen has the pedal to the metal, chasing John Astrup. The gap between James and Astrup is growing. It's now up to 0.5 seconds. Sky, what's the impact of tyre degradation on race strategy? How does it affect a driver's approach to the race?
Tire degradation plays a crucial role in race strategy. Teams and drivers have to consider the optimal time to pit for fresh tires and adjust their race pace to balance speed with tire conservation. It adds another layer of complexity to the racing challenge.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Coxis, who is currently in P9, but Chris Stokes is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Daniel Coxis.
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But Chris Stokes is not going to give up their position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Daniel Coxis and P9 doing everything they can to catch up.
Daniel Coxis is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Chris at the moment. The intensity is off the charts as James Allen hounds Astrup, both drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit.
Allen is so close to the Kiwi that if this were a dance floor, they'd be doing the tango.
It seems like Allen is struggling. They are not able to maintain their pace. This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Kunz will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
Indeed, the tension is palpable as Philip Kunz tries to reel in Nigel Walters. But Nigel Walters is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Can Philip Kunz find some extra pace to bring the fight to knock off Nigel?
best laid plans of mice and men Husky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Philip Kunz right now as they're struggling to keep up with Nigel. Snape is placed 7th at the moment.
That's right. They can't afford to make any mistakes or let up in their performance. Every point counts in this championship.
Things are starting to get tense as Stokes manages to close the gap to Not a Real Professor. It's now down to 3.3 seconds. It's a battle of wills out there, with John trying to outsmart and outmaneuver James Allen. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race? Looking at the lap times, John Astrop is not on pace with James Allen. Can they turn it around? As the race settles down, the drivers are really going at it.
It's like watching a high-speed game of chess. One wrong move and it could be game over, but these drivers are masters of their craft, always thinking 3 steps ahead.
That's right, and with the way they're maneuvering those cars, it's like they have superpowers.
It's almost like they have the power of flight, but instead of flying, they're speeding down the track like rockets.
I wonder if they have any spare rocket boosters for sale. It looks like Fauvargue is pushing hard to catch up to Philip Kunz. The gap is over a second, but Fauvargue is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on Philip Kunz?
Absolutely. Dominic Fauvargue in 6th will need to be patient and carefully work to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as they can't afford to take unnecessary risks and risk an off or damaging their car. Let's see if they have what it takes to get back into the game here.
Allen is on fire in the last sector. The leader has just finished the race. A fantastic result for Allen.
That was a true masterclass in driving from James Allen. You could see them making split-second decisions with total confidence, and it really paid off. What a performance.
A nail-biting finish, but Astrop claims 2nd place.
Strong work securing 2nd place. Well done.
Well done to Jody for securing 3rd place on the podium.
Impressive driving to secure that spot.
In 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, it's Nigel Walters, Philip Kunz, Dominic Fauvargue and Rich Snape. Chris Stokes and Daniel Cox in 8th and 9th. Coming in 10th, we have David Constable-Berry. The 11th sees Phil Bodkin. I'm Hal the VVS commentator bot, bring it on. It's a lovely day for racing here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. I'm Hal the VVS commentator bot, bring it on. It's a lovely day for racing here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. David Constable Berry is on their practice out lap. It's a lovely day for racing here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. There are just over 5 minutes left in this practice session. There are just over 5 minutes left in this practice session. Phil Bodkin is on their practice out lap. Chris Stokes is on their first practice flying lap. Bodkin is getting to grips with the VRC ARC TA2 mare in this practice session. Fannin is getting to grips with the VRC ARC TA2 Chevrolet General 6 in this practice session. It's a lovely day for racing here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Goldilocks has a best lap time of 1:08.402. Nigel Walters is on their practice outlap. With just 0 minutes left before we move to qualification, there is not long left for these drivers to finish their preparations. Bodkin is getting to grips with the VRC ARC TA2 mare in this practice session. Bodkin is getting to grips with the VRC ARC TA2 mare in this practice session. Get ready for some high-octane action as the drivers take on the challenge of qualifying at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits.
I think there's a few drivers out there that have the pace to stick in on pole.
Chris Stokes is on their outlap.
These are the moments that really matter. Let's see if Baldilocks can deliver.
It's all about strategy in these early moments. Rich Snape is taking their time to prepare for their qualifying run and get everything just right. It looks like that's the outlap done for Chris. They'll now look to focus on their first flying lap. Stokes crosses the start-finish line at the end of their outlap. You can feel the tension building. Knockoff Nigel is out on track. Walters has completed their outlap. The adrenaline is pumping. Phil Bodkin is on their outlap, warming up the tyres and getting ready to put in a fast. That's the outlap done for bodies. They'll now look to focus on their first flying lap. Chris Stokes is on their first flying lap.
Yes, they are. It takes a special kind of driver to thrive under this kind of pressure.
Chris has just completed that lap in 107.982. Their best lap so far is 107.982, putting them in P1. Will they be able to hold on to that spot? It's all about precision and speed in qualifying. Snape has just completed a lap in 108.574. Let's see if they can improve on that time further. This is what it's all about. Fallon is putting on a show for the fans in this qualifying session.
It's certainly exciting to watch, but let's not forget, the goal is to secure a good starting position.
Fallon has completed their first flying lap in 108.274. Wow, look at Philip Kunz go. They're really turning on the jets in this qualifying session. Kunz has just completed that lap in 108.438. Their best lap so far is 108.438, putting them in P6. Will they be able to hold on to that spot? A solid qualifying performance by DCB, positioning them in second at the moment. The question now is whether they can make further progress and challenge the frontrunners. Impressive work from the Kiwi, who has claimed fifth on the grid. Now the focus is on maintaining their composure and pushing for an even better starting position.
Couldn't agree more, Hal. Assetto has positioned themselves impressively in fifth. Now they need to build on this foundation and strive for an even better race result.
Assetto will be happy having put themselves into fifth in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure they can find a little extra in there.
What a fantastic showing from Stokes in qualifying. They currently hold the top spot and are in prime position for a strong starting position. Their lap times have been exceptional and they've showcased their talent and determination. It's an impressive showing by Nigel, currently in 8th. They've showcased their talent, but will they be able to find those crucial extra tenths of a second to climb higher? A strong showing from Nigel Walters as they currently sit in 8th. With the session drawing to a close, they'll need to dig deep and find that extra burst of speed to improve. Sky, the drivers are ready. Should we get it on?
Yes, Hal, we should definitely get it on.
Chris Stokes is on pole. And in the second position, it's none other than David Constable-Berry.
Let's see what David can do.
In the third position, we have Jody Fanton ready to tackle the race ahead. It's James Allen sitting comfortably in 4th. Securing the 5th place is John Asrop. Philip Kunz is 6th. Our 7th place starter, Rich Snape, is a driver who knows how to make up ground on the track.
Who knows, they could be the dark horse that steals the show.
Sitting in 8th is Nigel Walters. Daniel Coxis has qualified 9th. Dominic Fauvargue is lining up 10th. Phil Bodkin is placed in 11th. Flag drops and the race is underway. Drivers now face the challenge of avoiding first lap.
This is where the real racecraft comes into play. The drivers will be looking for any opportunity to make a move and gain an advantage.
It's all about finding those gaps and making the most of them, especially in these early stages of the race.
And with so many talented drivers on the grid, you know we're going to see some incredible overtakes here in the first sector.
It's not just about making a move, it's about doing it cleanly and without causing any incidents. As the drivers get this race underway, let me give a shout out to the admin team at Virtual Velocity for making this all possible. Heroes one and all. I can't wait to see how this race will play out. It's brilliant to see such a full grid here today.
It's always intense racing here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits. Hold on to your hats, folks.
It's game on now. Fallon is closing the gap to Daniel Cox's. It's now down to 0.1 seconds. Great driving from Jody Fannin, who has just gained a place and moved up to 5th. Dominic seems to be putting the pressure on Rich. Tough break for Fovard, who has just lost a position. This is a thrilling battle as Chris Stokes edges closer to Rich in their fight for P8. The gap between Chris Stokes and Snape is growing. It's now up to 0.5 seconds. So, Sky, considering the high speeds and split-second decision-making involved in racing, what's the impact of even a minor lapse in concentration?
A minor lapse in concentration can have significant consequences. It could lead to an off-track excursion, a loss of position, or even a collision. That's why it's crucial for drivers to stay focused and alert throughout the race.
3 cars, 3 different lines. They're jockeying for position, looking for any opportunity to make a move. Talk about pressure. Daniel is caught in the middle, feeling the heat from both Rich Snape and Knockoff Nigel.
You're absolutely right, Hal. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind act as a measuring stick for Daniel Cochish's performance. They'll have to keep a close eye on those gaps to stay in control of their race.
Hold your breath, folks. Cox is sandwiched between 2 relentless competitors. Rich Snape 0.1 seconds behind and Knockoff Nigel 0.2 seconds, and they're fighting tooth and nail for every position.
Absolutely, Hal. The pressure is mounting for Daniel as they navigate through this challenging situation. It's crucial for them to remain focused and make calculated moves.
Every move counts now as Daddy Dave works to reel in Philip and overtake for P3.
This is where every inch counts. DCB is pushing hard to close the gap on Kunz. Absolutely, precision and control are key here. Knowing when to push and when to hold back can be the difference between winning and losing.
A setback for David Constable-Berry, who has just been passed.
Yes, but they can't give up. There's still plenty of...
Hold on a second. Looks like that's a mistake from Alan. This could be costly.
It's a real shame. Until this point in the race, they've been looking at a decent result.
Looks like Dom is really pushing it to the limit. They're taking those curbs aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curb can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about finding the right balance between speed and control.
Dominic Fovard is in the flow, in their best lap so far. You know, Sky, as a former racing driver... Hold on a second. Oh dear, Bodkin has had an incident.
Did the wind contribute to that? It's blowing at 10 kph out there right now.
Look at that. Chris Stokes is hot on the tail of Rich Snape.
The gap between them is now just over 0.4 seconds. Who will come out on top?
The gap between Chris and Snape is widening. It's now up to 0.7 seconds. This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Fovard is chasing Daniel in P8. I don't think that's the fastest way around Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits. Nigel Walters is giving it their all as they chase down Dom in P8.
That driver is really pushing the limits. They're riding the curbs and pushing the car to its limits.
Looking at the lap times, Nigel Walters is not on pace with Dominic. Can they turn it around? A great moment for Nigel, who's just gained a place and moved up the standings.
You can't argue with results like that. Nigel is really making their mark on this race.
The battle for 8 is heating up as Dominic tries to catch Nigel in P8.
Don't forget the role of aerodynamics. Fauvargue should use slipstreaming to their advantage and close the gap to Nigel.
Dom is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with knockoff Nigel at the moment.
Can they get it together and reduce the gap?
As a former racing driver, Sky, how important is the relationship between a driver and their team during a race?
It's absolutely crucial. The team provides valuable information and...
Breaking news, folks, a brilliant maneuver from Dom, who has just moved up the field. It's an intense battle for position as Dominic tries to outmaneuver Cox's. This is edge-of-your-seat racing.
If Dominic Fauvargue isn't careful, they might end up turning this high-speed chase into a synchronized spinning routine, and trust me, that's not a crowd pleaser.
Fantastic move from Dominic Fauvargue, who's just gained a position.
Absolutely. Dominic Fauvargue is really putting on a clinic out there, and they're making it look easy.
It's a brilliant day for racing here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits. I'm really enjoying this.
This race is truly epic. What a treat to be sadly witnessing the spectacle.
The pursuit is on. Not a Real Professor is closing the gap on David Constable-Berry, determined to claim P5. It's not going to plan for Snape. They're still behind Daddy Dave and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. The excitement is palpable. This is going to be a race for the ages.
The drivers are executing their strategies to perfection, making the most of every opportunity. This is what top-level racing is all about.
This is what it's all about, folks. The Kiwi is in hot pursuit of Jody Fallon, who's just trying to stay ahead.
John is so close to Jody that if this were a dance floor, they'd be doing the tango.
It's not looking good for John Astrop. They're still behind Jody, and the gap is increasing. They're gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
It's not ideal for John Astrop, but they can still turn this around. They need to focus on their own driving and not let the gap get any bigger.
I love being here at Hidden Valley Raceway with 32 pits. What an awesome place to be, witnessing these titans of the track battle it out.
Indeed, hell, what a magnificent sight. And sound, I love...
Braking development. A tough moment for Astrop, who's just lost a place, dumping them down to 5th. It looks like Astrop is pushing hard to catch up to Jody Fallon. The gap is over a second, but Astrop is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on Jody Fallon?
That's right. Astrop in 4th knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But Jody Fallon is no slouch, and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will out there.
The best laid plans of mice and men are Sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for the Kiwi right now as they are struggling to keep up with Jody Fallon.
This is where the mental toughness of the Kiwi comes into play. They need to stay focused and keep pushing even when things aren't going their way.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. DCB will need to stay focused and keep pushing even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
Absolutely. Daddy Dave in 6th will need to be patient and carefully work to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as they can't afford to take unnecessary risks and risk an off or damaging their car. Let's see if they have what it takes to get back into the game.
Good news for David, the gap to Not a Real Professor has decreased. It's now down to 0.5 seconds.
This is where the pressure really starts to build. Both drivers will need to stay calm and focused if they want to come out on top.
Well, it doesn't look like John is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Fallon.
Anything can happen yet, and it usually does. I've certainly seen drivers come back from worse.
It looks like Astrop is making a move. The gap to Fanon is now down to 1.2 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. It's anyone's game at this point. Who will come out on top?
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Snapes trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on John Astrop. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can Rich Snape close in enough to mount a challenge?
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But John Astrop is not going to give up their position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Rich Snape and P5 doing everything they can to catch up.
Snape needs to get more consistent. Sky, they've just put in a slower lap than the Kiwi. As we enjoy seeing these titans of the track battle it out, let's not forget about the pit crews. Those guys and girls are like a well-oiled machine themselves.
Absolutely. They're the unsung heroes of the racing world, but you know what they say, behind every great driver is an even greater pit crew.
It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. The gap between Astrop and Rich is growing. It's now up to 0.5 seconds. Now I may be wrong here, but I'm not sure that's the racing line. The gap between Astrop in 5th and Rich Snape remains over a second, but Astrop is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 7 minutes?
Indeed, the tension is palpable as John tries to reel in Rich Snape. But Rich Snape is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Can John Astrop find some extra pace to bring the fight to Not a Real Professor?
The gap between Astrop and Snape is widening. It's now up to 1.0 seconds. The crowd is on tenterhooks as Fanon in 3rd chases after Philip Kunz. The gap is just over a second and you can feel the tension in the air. Can Jody Fanon find a way to catch up? Jody is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Philip Kunz to 1.5 seconds. The tension is building as John Astrop trails behind Rich Snape. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing and the pressure is mounting. Can Rich Snape hold on, or will John Astrop be able to close them down?
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Astrop in 5th determined to catch up. But we know Rich isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Astrop is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as they can close that gap.
It's a battle of wills out there, with Fanon trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Philip Kunz. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race? The gap between Fanon and Kunz is getting smaller.
That's a great effort from Jody Fanon. They need to keep up the pressure and see if they can make a move.
It looks like DCB is pushing hard to catch up to John Astrop. The gap is over a second, but DCB is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on John Astrop? It seems like David is struggling. They're not able to maintain their pace.
Can Constable Barry refocus and start putting in the lap times we know they're capable of?
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Fanon will need to stay focused and keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. Jody Fannin is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Philip at the moment.
Fannin needs to pick up the pace for sure, but I don't think they have it in them.
The gap between John Astrop and Constable Berry is pretty substantial right now. It's probably going to take a mistake from John to even allow David to get a look in.
It's not over till the checkered flag drops though, and it's important they don't lose concentration at this point.
It's not going to plan for David Constable Berry. They're still behind Astrop and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now.
This is a tough situation for David. They need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
Things don't seem to be going Jody Fannin's way in this race, as that's a big gap they'll have to close to even be in with a shout for gaining a place here. It's game on now. Jody has closed the gap to Philip. It's now down to 0.6 seconds. The race is heating up as Constable Berry in 6th closes in on John Astrop. The gap is just over a second. I'm sure they're going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight.
It's going to be tough for Constable Berry, as John Astrop seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Constable Berry pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
Superb driving from David, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. A solid performance from James Allen, who is holding down first. Oh dear, James Allen has dropped down to 3rd. Oh, the pressure is really getting to Allen. They've just lost 3rd spot to Philip Kuntz and they need to regroup quickly. The gap between Jody Fannin in 2nd and Philip Kuntz remains over a second, but Jody Fannin is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 1 minute?
That's right, Fannin in 2nd knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But Philip Kuntz is no slouch and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will out there. It looks like we might get a battle between Fannin and Philip Kuntz. What a move, Fannin has moved up to 1st. Amazing stuff, focus and precision what it's all about.
Philip Kuntz has the pedal to the metal chasing Jody.
Rubbing is racing, let's hope they don't rub it too hard.
Disappointing for Kuntz, they now find themselves in 3rd.
Sucks to be them, Hal.
Tough break for Kuntz, who has just lost a position. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with John trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on David Constable Berry. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can John Astrop close in enough to mount a challenge? It looks like John is making a move. The gap to DCB is now down to 0.8 seconds. The tension is building as Kuntz trails behind Nigel Walters. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing and the pressure is mounting. Can Nigel Walters hold on, or will Philip Kuntz be able to close them down? It's not looking good for Philip Kuntz. They're still behind Nigel Walters and the gap is increasing. They're going to need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around. The crowd is on tender hooks as Astrop in 4th chases after David Constable Berry. The gap is just over a second and you can feel the tension in the air. Can John Astrop find a way to catch up? John Astrop has just put in a faster lap than Constable Berry, so that's going to give them something to worry about. at the way the drivers are hugging those corners. It's like they're on rails.
Speaking of rails, did you know that the first racetrack was built on a railway in 1896? I bet those drivers were chugging along.
Haha, I bet they were, but things have come a long way since then, haven't they?
Definitely. It's amazing to think about the technology that goes into these cars now. I mean, they have more computing power than some countries.
It looks like Alan is pushing hard to catch up to Philip Kunz. The gap is over a second, but Alan is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on Philip Kunz?
Absolutely. James in 7th will need to be patient and carefully work to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as they can't afford to take unnecessary risks and risk an off or damaging their car. Let's see if they have what it takes to get back into the game here.
It seems like James Allen has got the bit between their teeth, improving on Kunz's lap time there. It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Rich, as they have a big gap ahead of them to close at this point in time.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Snape is going to have to get more serious with practice if they don't want to be outclassed on the circuit.
It's like Fannin saved all their energy for this final stretch.
You got this, keep your cool.
What a win. This is a historic moment for Jody Fannin. He put on a masterclass in driving today. What a display of skill and precision. A nail-biting finish, but Rich claims second place. Excellent focus from DCB to secure a fantastic third place on the podium.
Great job bringing it home.
Finishing 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th is John Asrop, Nigel Walters, James Allen and Philip Kunz. Dominic Fauvargue in 8th. 10th sees Daniel Coxis. Phil Bodkin take 11th. Coming in 9th we have Chris Stokes.